Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Football Queensland edition of the Village Law SEQFC preview show. My name is Darren, and for the Football Brisbane show, we had just one guest. For this show, we've got a cast of thousands. I'll probably forget who we've got, but we've got Liam and Tony. Good evening, gents.
Good evening. Good evening.
Great to have you with us as per usual. Now, our guests, we've got Daniel Panisi from Mitchelton. G'day, Daniel.
Howdy.
And from FQPL2, we've got Lee Cunningham from North Star.
All right, mate.
G'day, Lee. And we've got Terry Kirkham, who is coach of Caboolture. G'day, TK.
Darren, how you going? G'day, everybody.
Good. All right. So, look, we'll focus on the FQPL2 tonight. But before we get to that, let's go up to the NPL and have a chat about the results and matches in that competition. So last weekend, Logan Lightning had a big 3-2 win over GCU. Peninsula Power kept rolling on with a 4-1 victory over Gold Coast Knights. Magpies Crusaders, a big 3-2 victory over Redlands United. We'll talk about that one in a little bit more detail shortly. Brisbane Roar and Olympic had a 2-2 draw. Sunny Coast Wanderers had a 2-0 victory over Lions, and Strikers only lost 1-0 against Easts with new coach veteran Betja Vegovic. I think I got that right, on board. So guys, there's so much to talk about in the NPL. Tony, let's start with you. Pick something out of that.
I thought the Raw Olympic game was one of the best games this season. And when Olympic went 2-1 up, I thought that happened, but yeah, no. But what's going on at Lions? That's my question.
Yeah, that's
a few shocking results there, isn't there, really? I mean, you think better of them, really. I guess the other teams have just caught up, haven't they? Time for the purses to be opened up, I think, for them.
Might be late.
Can't do much now.
No.
We will get Darren Syme on board in future weeks, but my understanding is that after last season, Lions did a little bit of a rebuild. And if you look through their squad, there's a lot of young guys in there. So they're building up. I think they work off a 2-year cycle, maybe. Yeah, so there's still a lot of young guys still finding their way in the competition. Looking at the ladder, Peninsula Power, 10 from 10, 30 points. Brisbane Roar Youth, second on 26. Gold Coast Knights, 24. Olympic on 21. Moreton Bay and Logan just outside the top 4.
But the Power still have a game in hand, don't they?
Yes.
Yes. Power and Logan have both played 10. Sunshine Coast Wanderers, if they win their catch-up games, they could easily be in the top 4 as well.
Incredible.
So, yeah, it's quite, apart from Penn Power doing everything on top, it's quite an interesting league, isn't it? It's great to see Brisbane Royal Youth up there.
Just the Olympic as well. Olympic finally getting some results after a bit of an average start to the year as well. So I bet you there'll be a few people that'll be getting happy there as well.
Yeah,
so the top four will be clear. I reckon that's the top 4. There'll be no changes.
Well, it depends who Wanderers have got to play here, doesn't it, to make up those numbers.
Well, I don't think we've got through the first round yet. So
I can't see them. I think they're cut. I'll be very surprised if someone breaks in.
Yeah, okay. No,
the Lions are the team that traditionally does make their way in the top 4, and they're in 8th on 14th, having played their full quota of fixtures on 14 points. So they're, 7 points out of the top 4.
Yeah, no.
That's unheard of.
Yeah.
Too many, apart from where they're going to beat those other bottom sides, even though they just lost to the Wanderers. You can't see them taking too many points out of the top ones.
Now, guys, I referenced it before. Redlands United lost against Magpies Crusaders. Did you happen to see what happened with Richard Greer, the Redlands coach?
No.
Oh, he's in a bit of trouble.
I have a feeling I might have seen a video of this, but it went quiet shortly afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in a bit of trouble, I think.
Yeah, trying to retrieve the ball and taking someone out at the same time.
Well, he physically pushed them over, didn't he? Really, just charged at them and just shoved them, and not a good look.
Kevin Muscat.
Well, I was going to reference that, but yeah. It was very much like that.
Very passionate, very passionate. Good to see.
Yeah, but you should. Yeah, I mean, we talk about passion, but I mean, we also talk about professionalism as well. And you know, I guess it got the better of him, I suppose, on the night, and he's probably kicking himself now. But but you have to be able to control yourself.
Does anyone know what's happening with the Wanderers for next year?
Wanderers or
The
Magpies?
Mackay side.
Sorry, they've got about 18 names. Are they going into that Central League, or what? Has anyone heard anything?
Nothing's been released officially that I can tell. The last thing I heard was I read on the socials was that the Magpies were certainly going to try and fight for their right to certainly stay in the competition for in Southeast Queensland. But yeah, I don't think it's been released yet, not unless Darren or
Next
someone
year's
knows.
league says it's Southeast Queensland comp.
Yeah, that's right.
So if they're bottom three,
Yeah.
then what happened? And 3 teams have got to go down. Does that mean another one goes down, or?
Yes. Interesting times ahead.
Never a dull
Yeah,
moment, is there?
It's probably time to get a bit of clarity from Football Queensland on this topic, wouldn't you say?
Or do they drop 2 down and only 2 drop from FQPL?
Yeah. Does 2 come up? One, I don't know. Who knows?
I think they're more likely to say only 2 go down rather than 3.
Yeah.
Then, but then I don't know what happens with FQPL2 then. So they'll
But
probably
I'll
bring
make a
another team
decision
in.
on January 3, just before the season starts. I'll make a decision.
Yeah. That the Magpies one is a very interesting one because that can have ramifications all the way through.
Let's have a look at this weekend's fixtures. Provincial Power are hosting Capalaba. Gold Coast United up against Redlands. East's taking on Gold Coast Knights. Lions up against Magpies Crusaders. Sunny Coast Wanderers up against Brisbane Strikers. Olympic take on Logan. And Moreton Bay hosting Brisbane Raw Youth. No real standouts there.
Nah.
No, I think that's pretty much going to be all one-way traffic. I think Strikers will be bored with their bit of win, almost 1-0 loss. Even though it's only 1-0 loss, it's still better than a 6-0 or a 10-0. So maybe they might fancy themselves with a result too against Wanderers, even though they just be Lions. So who knows? It's all up in the air, isn't it?
Be very surprised if the Strikers win.
Well, we've said that from the season started, haven't we? We'll be very surprised if Strikers get to win this season, especially going by early form. But new coach, new attitude, can do wonders.
All right, let's turn our attention now to the FQPL. And Mitchelton had a big 2-0 victory over Southwest Queensland Thunder.
Yes.
Daniel Panisi called it.
Dan.
To that. Brisbane City 6-2 over Sunny Coast Fire. I was at that game. Ipswich Knights 1-1 against Southside Eagles. Souths United 1, Wynnum Wolves 2, big win for Wolves. And Western Pride had a 2-1 win over Holland Park. DP, let's start with you. A 2-0 victory over the Thunder. I saw you Saturday morning and you called it. You said you were going to get the points and you did.
Well, yeah, I think we got them at a good time. Although City played 3 games in 6 days and we did previously, but that was always going to tie, and they had some tired legs and some injured players, and I think we just executed a plan well, and we're starting to come into some reasonable form now. We finally got our mojo. So look, we went there very confident. We actually played them 5 times and never scored, and we competed pretty well, we felt. But we went on the front foot and went after them, and realistically, I think 2-0 was a fair indication. But our keeper didn't make a save. We probably could have had 1 or 2 more, really.
Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say we've been watching you guys, over the last few weeks, and I think I mentioned a few weeks back that you were on the cusp of getting those. Starting to turn your season around. So do you sense that? You think now things are starting to gel well, and this would be
100%.
Nice.
Yeah, we're a completely different side. You couldn't compare where we were at the start, and there's lots of reasons why that occurred. Not much to talk about on here, but we've recognised how, why, and there's a lot of things that we've been able to fix. Nothing major, but And the average age of our side against Thunder was under 21. It was 20 and a half or 20.85. So, we've invested in youth, and probably to our detriment this year that we went out with a policy that we wanted to have a young squad to try and build. Whether we went up or not, it didn't really matter because we need to build. And we had 17, 18-year-olds playing on the weekend. Probably at the start of the year, we had too many young players and our experienced players weren't available. But we're in a good mindset and just taking each game at a time. And we're focused on Souths this weekend now.
That'll be a tough match too. That'll be a good round. That'll be a good game. That Souths have been on a bit of a bounce back as well. So
they're a strong, experienced side. A lot of experienced players in there. They're rugged. They're tough. Pretty well drilled. So, but as I said, if we're up for it, we're up for it, and we're pretty sure we'll be up for it and ready to compete with them.
Looking at the ladder, Brisbane City are 9 from 9 on 27 points. Rochdale had the bye last week. They're on 22. Southwest Queensland Thunder, 3rd on 21. And Western Pride, Liam, have moved into 4th place.
Look, that 4th through to about 5th, 6th, 7th, that it's all open. I mean, we were lucky that with the results around us, with Souths having a loss and Knights having the draw. So we won all there at one stage, and we really needed that win just to try and break free a little bit, which is what we've done. But look, it's long way to go yet.
So Southwest Queensland Thunder at the bye this weekend. Sunny Coast Fire up against Holland Park Hawks. That's a massive game for both teams. Western Pride up against Rochdale Rovers. We'll give you a bit of time on that one, Liam. Southside Eagles against Brisbane City. Mitchelton taking on Souths, and Ipswich Knights host Wolves. So Western Pride, Rochdale.
Yeah, that's going to be a cracking match. I think with the results that Pride have had lately, and the confidence that they've got from the City match, and where it was a loss, but still to be able to take it up to City the way that we did, I think there's a bit of confidence growing in the squad. I think this will be a cracking match. I'm tipping probably a draw, actually, to be honest, but I don't know. We'll see. But I want Pride, but it'll be a tough match, this one. It's at Briggs Road too, so I'll be there.
I just want to mention 2 things from the match on the weekend. Brisbane City up against Sunshine Coast Fire. For the Fire, very naive with the way that they conceded their goals. They've got a lot of local players, and they're just lacking that experienced head to keep them all together. They lost 2 players in the first half through injury, and boy, didn't it show. Their shape was not very good in the second half.
I think a couple of those players were hospitalised too, weren't they? Or one was.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah, a lot of trouble there. But the one thing that I do want to mention is that there was a ball that was played back to Matt Smith, who was playing in central defence, and he's kicked it first time and he's lumped it.
Yeah.
He's lumped it, and I'm thinking, Matt Smith, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It turned out to be a 40-yard pass out to the wing, straight to the foot of his winger. It was a thing of beauty. It was worth the price of admission.
Well, knowing that fire ground, it could have been the wind that took it as well, and the short sides that could have helped.
All right, guys, let's not beat about the bush. Let's get to the FQPL too. Looking at results on the weekend, Sanford Rangers had a 7-2 victory over Coomera. North Star, a big 2-1 win over Magic United. Grange Thistle, a 2-1 upset over Caboolture, and Virginia United 1-1 with Taringa. TK, you had your first loss on the weekend. Tell us about it.
It's disappointing. I think we played with 10 men for probably 70 minutes, and we were very good. And what a lot of people don't realise is we've restructured the side now. Really, 6 players that were playing 3 or 4 weeks ago now not playing, and a lot of long-term injuries. And even on Friday, trying to make a shift, trying to make players into key position players that haven't played there before, and players have been playing under 23s in one position on Friday night. We're trying to resurrect the team, and but fair credit. It was a good game, and I watched back on the tapes, and we were very unlucky really not to get a result, and unlucky not to get a draw as well. If you look at the goal and you watch the tape, our goalkeeper Ethan Reed's been brilliant. He's made one mistake all year and just happened to be on the weekend, and he's let something through his hands he should probably never let through, and we copped the loss. But look, some of these things is not a bad thing, especially when you're building the squad that we've got, and it's a good learning curve. And 3 pre-season and up to now, we haven't lost a game for 11 games, so it's not a bad thing. And and we've learned a lot from it all this week, and we've worked pretty hard. Again tonight on getting ready for Saturday's game or Sunday's game.
Now, we had a few jokes on the show here a couple of weeks ago. Tony mentioned that it was a 2-team league, and we've got Lee from North Star here tonight. Is it a 2-team league, Terry?
Look, go back to a couple of weeks ago and a few things that were said. First things first, the NPL is a 2-team league, 1-team league, 2-team league. FQPL 1 is a 1-2-team league. And now we're talking about FQPL 2. My vision is that every league around the world is exactly the same, and we talk about the FQPL 2 league, and I don't think it's spoken about very positively, from the top ends of football. And, I think everyone seems to forget, I've coached 700-800 games. I've been in the NPL since it started. I was in the Brisbane Premier Leagues. I've done a lot in my career, and to go back down into the QPL, Division 3 and take a great, a club like Caboolture who strive to go to the top. I worked at Sanford last year in the lower leagues. I've been to lower leagues for most of my life, really. And I had a great time. I've had a great time this year. And to everyone that's in the FQPL 2 league, everyone's doing a great job. Lee's doing a great job. Everyone at every club's working hard. And there's been some great games. And I've thoroughly enjoyed all the games that we have. And, it's competitive. And I think the biggest thing is about all the leagues at the moment is they're competitive. And, if I looked at, Daniel's just won the weekend against Southwest, that's great. Caboolture lost on the weekend. Someone at some stage is going to win a big game. Sunshine Wanderers, the Wanderers had a great win over Lions. I think all the leagues are competitive. And, I don't think we should talk about it that way. Look, in our league, anything can happen. And the next 2 or 3 weeks thing happen. I can see now we've lost a lot of players, and we're all back in the same group. So it depends on how you guys want to look at it and how you want to market it. But
it's a new league too. I mean, the NPL.
It's no disrespect to you, Terry, or anything like that. It's teams in that comp that really have a look at Coomera.
Yeah, but Tony, I think and trust me, I get what you're getting at. But let's look at Coomera, right? You've got a young coach down there, and you've got a technical director that's in his first job. Now, those guys played some good football. They're trying to play out of the back. They're trying to play away. Very, very inexperienced. And they're getting a belting. But let's look at strikers. Strikers bring in this, go and bring an experienced coach in. They've got an experienced board. They're a big club, and look at the hiding that they're copying. Once
strikers have brought that on themselves.
But all the leagues go through it. And once again, this is a new league. And I think everyone's got to get behind what Football Queensland are trying to do. And they're not trying to do, they are doing it. And, and I think that, us as coaches and everyone who's in the media, whenever we get in the media or whatever we're doing, whatever leagues we're in or whatever leagues you guys are talking about, we need to promote it and promote it well. Because I can tell you now, Coomera is a big club, and there's a lot of people down at Coomera that, on committees who are working hard, and the players and the coaches, and they're all turning up every week and having a crack. They had a crack against us. And I wouldn't certainly, be in the NPL where I've been, a long time, or whatever league I'm in, keep going around talking, about teams that shouldn't be there. The bottom line is at the moment in the NPL system, FQPL 2 is the bottom of that league. And teams are striving to go up. And I think we just need to be positive. And just going back to a couple of weeks ago when you did bring up the FQPL 2 and things were starting to get thrown around, you guys started to talk about money. And you brought my name into it, and you brought my name personally into it. I just want to point out that Graham Ross turned around and brought up straight away how apparently I'm spending a shitload of Caboolture. I just want to let everyone know for a fact that in the NPL and in the QPL 1 and QPL 2, every football club has a budget. Everyone's working the budgets. In the NPL, Rossi's turned around and spoke about how great Peninsula Power are and how good their team is, which they are, brilliant. How well coached they are, brilliant. Never brought up about the budget. Olympic, You know, we brought up about how good they are, how good the squad is, which they are, how well they coach, which they are. Never brought up the budget. Darren, you asked about Matt Smith. Last year, they had a low budget. They got relegated. Well, is that the reason why they got relegated? And then you asked Matty about what his budget is this year, and he deferred it from the question. And he said, no, let's not talk about budget. Let's talk about players. When you guys spoke about the FQPL2 last week, you spoke about Caboolture and you nailed me personally. And you said that I'm down here spending, or Rossi made the comment, that I'm spending a shitload to try and get promoted. Well, I can tell you now, gents, and to everybody out there in the land, every football club in Australia, and I would say 95% of them have a football budget, and most head coaches and most players at the NPL level and a couple of divisions down are paid, and everyone works for budget. I've got a budget here at Caboolture, and they've had the same budget as what the coaches have had for the last 7, 8, 10 years, exactly the same. And by the way, I'm 30% under budget. Now, you know, so when everyone wants to start talking about budgets and leagues and start naming people, you need to be very careful. The next thing, Tony, is you turn around and said to everyone in the world, including my family and everybody, you turn around and said that I'm spending personal money, all my personal money, and I'm paying for this team. And basically it's along the lines that people would read about it, that I'm here spending my money to try and get success. That is absolute rubbish. And I can tell you right now, here's a fact. I've got some people that have come in as sponsors to this football club. Dean Alexander from Nicholas Black Lawyers, Matt Packer from Halo Consulting. They've all put money into this club because I've come here and they've sponsored, they've bought a package like everyone else. Global Business Auctioneers and Valuers, my company has put money into this club. But my company also to put money into Peninsula Power. It's also to sponsor Brisbane City. It's also sponsored Sanford. It's donated money to charities, you know, and no disrespect, I'm a paid football coach, right? So if I turn around then and decide to put money back in the football club because I'm being paid it, that's my privilege. And for you guys to get on there, especially, and make comments about myself or any head coach or anyone who's putting money back into the game when you're not talking about the game, you know, it's just not acceptable. And I get it, it's off the cuff. I get you guys weren't directing it anywhere, but unfortunately I had to listen to it and so did my family. So the bottom line is, guys, is that the FQPL2 is a league and people are trying to get promoted. FQPL1 is a league, people are trying to get promoted. And in the NPL, everyone's trying not to get relegated or win it. And in the FQPL, teams are trying not to get relegated. And next year, FQPL teams are going to try not to get relegated. So, you know, let's
tell you what, Kerry, and I know you've said, I know what you're saying, but I don't think we'll have to spend too much money to win that comp. And I'm not saying
it's not about the money. Caboolture Sports Football Club, just so you know, has been around 65 years. There's now a $20 million facility here, and they have a major business. They spend a shitload. They 100% do. And I'll tell you what they spend it on: infrastructure. They spend it on community. Do you know how much money that we are now investing since I've come in? We're setting up all the coaching and football department. Do you know how much money we're now investing in coaches? You know, this club's been around a long time and it's a big club. And I can assure you in 5 years' time to 10 years' time, this will be a very, very big, powerful club in this state. The club spends a lot of money on the community. And if you think that they're putting it in to all of this football team because we've got a couple of named players and a named coach, you're completely wrong. And it shouldn't be alluded to that way. You know, and as I said, you had Matt Smith on last week and you had the chance to grill Matty on budgets, and Matty answered it perfectly, as I would if I was on the show. You know, we shouldn't be talking about budgets in clubs. You know, the biggest thing that's happened in football just lately, and that one thing I get amused about, is in the NPL, we're talking about the clubs who are buying success and the clubs who are developing, so it's called developing. What a lot of rubbish. You know, if clubs are good enough to be at the top of the league and clubs want to invest in young players and talk about, you know, oh, we're a development team now, expect to get relegated. This is a business. It's a professional sport, you know, and everyone needs to understand that. And we should go back to the game about talking about the good teams, the battles and the relegations, and not bring people into it, because you should be talking about the sponsors and the people that do put all their money in the game positively. And if I choose to put money in the game, you should speak about me positively and not try and take the piss out of me. You know, it's just very, very simple. And look, guys, I think you got a great show, and I think really, really, you know, he's doing a great job. Darren, you know, I've always given the time and I love what's going on. But just be careful when you get inexperienced people that haven't been around the game a long time, who haven't coached big football clubs. And as I said, my first senior job's 2002. So I've been around football a long time on budgets, and I get how it works. I've never heard a season yet where we're now all talking about budgets. We should be talking about the great game. You know, there was some fantastic games on the weekend, all the goals that are being scored. You know, there's so many positives. So many people around the leagues are working so hard. So many people invest their time. I'm sure that the young coaches now, and Daniel and you know, and Lee and everyone that's now developing to come through and have a career in the game are turning around, working hard. And that's what we should be talking about. We should be promoting the game and not talking about someone like me who's been around a long time and then throwing the money word around just because I own a big business. And by the way, I built that business too on the first year I started coaching. So, you know, I hope that sort of settles that one because I need to get that off my chest. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Terry.
Is that it, Tony?
No, what do you want to say? It's sad to say. We don't agree on certain things. I mean, you know, I don't even bother going to games anymore. There is no atmosphere at games. The level is the worst it's ever been. There's too many teams. There's not enough decent players. What else do you want? And we can promote it as much as you want. I can promote Coomera and Virginia United having a big game this weekend. But you'll get 15 people there and 4 magpies watching it.
Yeah, look, that's something we're working on out here, to be honest, trying to get the crowd back. And I think the structure...
There's no crowds. Mate, I've been going to Olympic for 100 years. They, and most, and not just Olympic, a lot of clubs have lost their roots.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying that's the job right now. And I think putting the league structure in that's coming and having something to play for and relegation and promotions a step in the right direction. There's been a lot of, in my opinion, players in the last few seasons playing beneath their level for whatever reason. Certainly not getting into it. I'm not getting into a money debate.
You know why they play beneath their level? Money talks.
Yeah, but I guess, you know, that's the thing. Like, it's no good to say it's shot. It is what it is. There's no fixing it. I think the one thing Terry said that, you know, well, not the one thing, but one of the things Terry said that I agree with is that this structure and putting the league system and promotion and relegation and getting a proper football pyramid is a step in the right direction. And he's right. A lot of people did, you know, talk negatively about the league before we formed it. And I think you're kind of in a bit of a lose-lose there. If you don't build a good team that people strive to beat, like Caboolture have, that we're striving to beat, you don't get the football, which means you don't get the atmosphere and don't get the crowds. Like, we can only work with what we've got right now.
Lee, you're currently in 4th place. You had another win over Magic. Is that the second time that you've beat them now?
Yeah, both close games.
You must be, I mean, there were so many knockers at the beginning of the season. You must be proud as punch at the moment.
Well, there's a couple. No, look, I'm really, really proud of the lads. Look, this is always, for us, we are one of those teams that have brought in a really young squad. Our average age across the squad is something like 20, 21, not just on any match day. That's what we've got to work with week in, week out. And we did, you know, we had hoped to bring a couple of experienced players in, but, you know, the struggles with being a new league made that tough for us. So we're working with the players we've got. And they show a hell of a lot of heart. Like the team we put on the park, we got a hiding 2 weeks ago. The worst coaching result I think I've ever coached. I don't hide that at all. And we came back and bounced back and played a tough game against Magic and picked up 3 points. And that's a young squad that just showed a lot of maturity to come back and go, you know what, we're not going to take that. We're not going to stay down. We're going to keep fighting and playing good football.
All right, let's quickly turn to this weekend's fixtures in the FQPL2. We've got Coomera up against Grange Thistle, Virginia taking on North Star, Taringa against Sanford Rangers, and Caboolture hosting Magic United. I would suggest Taringa Sanford is the pick of the games out of those. Yeah,
look, possibly. I don't think we should knock the recent form of Virginia as well. Picked up 4 points in the last 2 games against Magic and Taringa. They've certainly really improved greatly, results-wise anyway. I mean, they were putting in a lot of effort, but results-wise have picked up. So I think there'll be quite a few good games against the league. And on the point about Coomera as well, I do agree with what Terry said earlier. They came here and they played out and they pressed and they made it difficult for us for 30, 40 minutes. And yeah, like, eventually we got the goal and we ground them down. But the teams in the league, I think it's a bit closer than what you guys are letting on. We called it a 2-team league recently. I'm assuming those 2 teams were Caboolture and Taringa, but Grange have crept into 2nd place since then. So does that make it a 3-team league now?
Still a 2-team league.
Which 2 are we taking?
That's my opinion. I'm not changing it. That's my opinion. I'm told.
Yeah. And anything can happen when can lose, you know, a lot of players and a lot of things can change during the year. And And anything can happen. I still think anything's going to happen. I said it 2 weeks ago, even with us, because I knew what was coming up. Never alone then have 2 more boys in hospital with injuries and 2 red cards in 1 week. So anything can happen. Anything.
Daniel, what are your thoughts on what Terry spoke about before?
With the league?
Just with that, with budgets. I mean, you've got a business as well. To dip in your own pocket and get a player over?
No, not really. I mean, when I was at Brisbane City, I coached against Terry in the first year of the NPL, and that's what I was getting to. That the first year of the NPL, it was competitive, but Western Pride and Toowoomba were getting belted, and people were saying they shouldn't be in the comp. And it took a few years for things to stabilise, and now you bring in the likes of Lions and Gold Coast Knights, and if you look at the top 4, apart from Lions out of there, the clubs with the biggest budget would be up there, and that's football. That's how it works in any league. And then you get some anomalies like when Leicester won the league, and some punching above their weight. You can't always do that. It's not sustainable. It's not realistic to expect you to be able to keep doing that. But if you've got the money, what I'm anti is clubs spending money they don't have. That's the big issue. And that's when you see clubs in massive debt and they're not paying players. That's where the issue lies. If a club can afford to pay someone whatever wage, whether they're worth it for the level, that's if we were in Melbourne and I could sign a player who's going to bring an extra 150 people through the gate, and we're charging $10 admission, no problem. But when we're not playing for prize money, the business kicks in to go, well, is it quantifiable? In my instance at Mitchie, not really. We're not going to get an extra 50 people. We don't charge a gate. And but look, it's horses for courses. What I was getting to with FQPL2 is it'll take 3 to 5 years for that league to get, you look sooner or later, there'll be St. George in there, there'll be Albany Creek, there'll be a strong Gold Coast, Apollo, and all of a sudden the 3rd division becomes, strong. They'll go up. Look, you look at the NPL now. Every team that's been promoted from FQPL has stayed there, so it tells you there's an ascendancy going up.
And I think when you look at sports like in Queensland AFL, you look at the clubs that they've got established there, with all the pokies and the massive bars and the big function rooms. We need that in our game, don't we? We need 20 clubs that are just absolute powerhouses that are chock-a-block full of money, pumping all those resources back into the teams. And
there's a bit different though.
I mean,
their situation's a bit different with the way the money flows. But what I was going to say is that if a club is spending 200 grand on their first team, which is fine, if they invested that in the facilities, then you wouldn't have to be spending as much on players because they come for the facilities. And I mean, that's what we're working on at our club as best we can, is keep having a better pitch to play on. We've got the artificial, the change rooms are getting done, sports science programs. All of a sudden, over a period of a few years, you build something that your coaches are, you've got top shelf coaches all the way up. Clubs start to do that like they do down south. Then, the money is secondary. You're always going to have to offer good money, but they come in there because of, the whole package, not just, I got $350 a week from this club and someone else offered me $400. Otherwise, they'll just keep jumping whoever offers the most. But AFL, Darren, they get funded from the top down, so they don't have to spend as much as our clubs do.
The only issue with that is, unfortunately, like, your juniors will walk if you get relegated to a nearby club that's in a higher league, and that will always be the way. So there is a balancing act there. I don't think you can say don't invest in your first team and put all the money into the club, because even with the nicest,
they're not linked.
Yeah,
the juniors aren't linked, so it doesn't matter.
But when they get to that older age and they're looking to kick on, they are going to want to play at the highest level.
Look at what's happened at the Strikers. The Strikers are in NPL. They'll get relegated, okay? Because not even Jesus Christ can save them.
And juniors are league.
And they're going to play, most of their juniors are at Logan. They've got Logan, Roachdale, and them in the space of 10 Ks.
Yeah.
Why would they come to Perry Park to play?
They'll find out next year, won't they?
The Strikers?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Terry, just just quickly, and on that, I remember having a discussion with you at Briggs Road a few years back, and you were going along the lines of this and saying that your senior team should be your shop front, and that team should be the one that you concentrate on, because they're the ones that'll stay up, they're the ones that'll win, and they're the ones that'll encourage those to come around, like the juniors and that, to come to your club.
Which is true.
Yeah. And I hadn't really had much thought about that, and it wasn't until because obviously 2019 was a rough year for Pride in more ways than one, and being around Terry that year, I certainly learned a lot about it, because I was a big believer of all juniors should be promoted to the first team, and that's the future of your club. But then it wasn't until I actually sat down, had a chat with Terry there with TK there, and I just went, you know what, he's right. If you're not winning, if you're not getting to finals or at least getting up there in the top half of the league, those people won't want to come to your club because they want to win.
Here's the thing. Once again, most people wouldn't know this, but when I picked up my first senior job, I picked up a Croatian-backed club that had been relegated 2 years in a row. I came out of the Victorian Premier League and took that club, 7 players. When I picked up Union City, which was North Coburg, 2 years later, a year and a half later, mid-year, on the bottom, getting belted, crowds going crazy. Went to Bentley Greens, just been relegated, everyone exiting. Came to Brisbane to have a pinch about mid-year, on the bottom, hadn't won a game, getting belted. Went to Olympic, on the bottom, getting belted. Moreton Bay Jets, 35 grand budget, start a new club, myself on the board, no coaches, no players. 3 months later, we're playing our first game. Western Pride sat there as a consultant, coach walked round 5, haven't won a game, on the bottom of the league. I can tell you now, going to all those clubs and turning them all around and getting results and working hard, the bottom line is that the committees and the boards, how they set their parameters 12 months in advance and 2 years in advance, makes a difference. And there's nothing worse for a lot of coaches now when they go and take jobs and they think that they're moving on, and all of a sudden, they can't build the team that they need, and we're going to rely on the kids coming through. And I'm sorry, it just doesn't work at the top levels. And if you're going to work on something and build on something, you've got to do it over a period of time, but you need experience and you need players and you need coaching and you need to have a board that's prepared to turn around, back up their end of the deal by getting the business end of the club and getting the finances of the club into play and make sure they're correct. I deal in corporate insolvency every day. So when I walk in and I sit down with a football club, I know when they're in distress. I know when they're in distress financially, and I know when they're in distress just on the field as well. So I don't just walk in and look at a team. I walk in and look at an entire club, and the history shows it. All those clubs are doing well after I've walked. And the bottom line is it takes time, but you've got to correct the whole entire plate. And unfortunately for Western Pride, when Western Pride won the grand final a few years ago, and you look at that team, it was a young team. But the club never budgeted for the next year and the year after, when those players weren't $100 players anymore. Those players are $200, $300, $400 players. And unfortunately, we're in a semi-professional league, and it's a business, and everyone needs to get that. And, clubs that want to aspire to go and play in the NPL, to anyone that's out there that's never been in the NPL system and you're sitting on a committee and a board with a dream of going to the NPL so your kids can play there, you need to go read the 90-page document and understand the financial business model that is required to be able to run a big, massive business to compete in the NPL. And the last thing is, one thing I say to everybody, and it's paramount. Your first team in football, your first team, especially on the men's side of the game, determine the level of your football club.
Yep.
And in the NPL in the start, in the first 5 years, when that first 5 years license came out, it was an NPL system supposedly on development. And the reason why was because it was a hidden thing that if we keep it as a development league, the money will stay out and the money can stay in the Brisbane Premier League. And it was never, ever going to survive that way. This is a business. It is the second highest league in the land. It's semi-professional, coming to professional now. And everyone needs to get their heads around that if you want to play in the top flight, let's talk about the top flight only, NPL, you as a football club are going into a professional league, and everyone needs to be professional. You've got to have budgets. You've got to have sports science. You've got to be good, and you need to compete, and everyone needs to be ready for that.
Agree. Absolutely.
There we go.
That's a fact.
Terry, if a second division starts, how many Brisbane teams can survive?
Sorry?
If a second division A-League starts,
yeah,
how many Brisbane teams can survive? Zilch.
Well, no. There is one or two, and it comes back down to
long term.
No.
Billion a year, how would that survive?
Well, look, the biggest thing is, Tony, is that when we start talking about the next level of the A-League, it's where you're going to be playing out of and what's the deal. The Raw struggled for so long because of the financial hamstrings of what we had at Suncorp. Now they're playing out at Redcliffe and they've got a bit of a future and they can hopefully start making some money. And I can tell you right now that stadium down there, where you've got the most powerful, strongest, biggest now NPL club running around in Queensland who could compete in Melbourne anywhere, they're sitting right next door. And by the way, they're the ones who hooked up the deal. So, I think that Moreton Bay, I think it might not be a standalone NPL club. I think that if a region in Brisbane got together and we had the facility like the Dolphins that is financially viable, and the bigger people got together and the business people of Brisbane got together, you could put a team together. And but once again, Tony, it's hard because we've got so much stuff going on television. There's not the money coming in so far. No one knows what's happening next year. We've got COVID. We've got all these problems, and financially, it's very difficult for any club to try and think about being at the top league and running with $200,000 budgets. And let's remember, I've been in Melbourne too, and the budgets down in Melbourne compared to Brisbane are not even on the same page. And Melbourne football now is dealing with COVID every week, and I think the financial burden of what's going on in the market and the world in COVID is going to bring that down. I think Brisbane could become quite strong. There's going to be a lot of people wanting to come here in the next 2 or 3 years, I think.
If COVID keeps going, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a problem. How far can the A-League keep going? Look, there's one thing that's positive. You've got at the Raw at the moment, you've got a local coach now in Mooney, a great guy, and you've got all these young players now being signed, and because it's going to be more financially viable to build local teams against the A-League building, the teams of no one. Look, let's face it, the last couple of years, who was at the Raw? I didn't know any of the coaches. I wouldn't have known very few of the players. Now I know the coaches. I know the players. I can run into them in the street and say good day. I think that's a massive positive, and what we just need is 2 or 3 marquee players, and we're back to where we should be. But the B League and the second league, yeah, I believe we could put a team together in Brisbane if we've got that stadium down there, and if it's financially viable, where you can run a semi-pro team, not having to spend $20 million, maybe $5 million. We'll see how we go.
There we go, guys. This show could go on all night. It probably has gone on all night. We should probably wrap it up there. Absolutely brilliant discussion tonight. So, Liam and Tony, thank you so much as per usual.
Thank you. Tony, Terry, just want to say, mate, I know you're from Melbourne and I know your parents are down there, and I know it's a bit hard at the moment to get down there and travel. So just, knowing you personally, I just hope that everything works out for them down there and at the safe, and then you can travel down there soon.
Yeah. No, look, Liam, I appreciate it. It's tough. My mum and dad went into a nursing home first 2 months of COVID, and I've seen them once since, and it's difficult, and Dad's not traveling too well, and unfortunately my family's here, our business here, football's here, and it's very difficult to travel, and I know a lot of people are in the same boat, and I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people doing it tough, isn't there? And it's tough, but I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
All the best, sir.
Good comments. TK, thank you for your time tonight. Lee, thank you for your participation.
Appreciate it.
Good stuff. Good luck on the weekend up against Virginia. And Daniel, well done. Thank you for joining us.
And boys, don't forget to donate.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good stuff. Get to a game this weekend. This has been the Village Law SEQFC preview show. We will see you next week.
See you, boys.
Bye.